Moving on to our wonderful multiple choice questions with our wonderful candidates. It's time to see what we got. We got two questions here for you. First of which of the following pairs of elements must a client prove to hold an accountant liable for common law negligence? How dare they? Accountants are perfect. You could never come after an accountant for anything, including negligence, right? That is not the case because we know from our lesson that common law of fraud is going to require five elements all to be met. Those are going to be, stay with me. If you don't have it memorized yet, all good, but you should definitely have it memorized. We need to prove misrepresentation of a material fact. As mentioned, you can't just have $1 fraud. I mean, sorry, but that's not that big of a deal. We need center, which is intent to deceive. So okay, that's a possibility. But a violation of gap. I know I'm only on point two, but no, there's nothing to do with gap here. I mean, that's a total distractor. We're not doing anything involved with gap. I mean, maybe the financial statements you're doing have to do with gap, but this is just a complete distractor. So don't worry about that. That is a distractor. We also need intent to induce reliance. So again, we're kind of dealing with this fraudulent situation. We also need reasonable reliance, and lastly, actual damages to the party. So which of these looks like that may be the case as we're reading through them here? Freedom from contributory negligence and privity. No, didn't really sound like what we're looking for. What about willful misrepresentation and breach of the accountant's duty of care? Okay. And then breach of an accountant's duty of care and loss. So let's eliminate breach of the duty of care because we see that in both answers. So obviously that's going to be the case. Now, is it willful misrepresentation or is it loss? Now, this is going to be loss because this is negligence, right? This is not absolute fraud. This is going to be, again, common law negligence. So, willful misrepresentation, that would be more in line with if it said something about constructive fraud or if it said something about normal fraud, what I like to call it is normal fraud. But in this case, it's just going to be that loss. It's going to be the breach of the duty of care and loss. That would be our negligence, common law negligence. Next up, American Corp retained Baker CPA to conduct an audit of its financial statements to obtain a bank line of credit. We have seen this situation a bunch throughout the lesson, so make sure you're familiar with it. American signed an engagement letter drafted by Baker that included a disclaimer provision. As a result of Baker's failure to detect the material misstatement in American's financial statements, the audit report contained an unqualified opinion. Good. Based on American's audited financial statements, National extended credit to American, National, presumably the line of credit bank. American filed a petition in bankruptcy shortly thereafter. National sued Baker for damages based on common law fraud. What would be Baker's best defense? Great question, and let's think about it. Let's talk about it. Let's get down to the bottom of it. So, what is Baker's best defense? Baker's the CPA. Baker's the one who did the tax return or did the audit. Again, like we can think of those pretty much the same. Now, what is your best defense on common law fraud? So this is fraud here, not negligence, fraud. They're trying to sue us saying we committed fraud, which we know is more significant than negligence. Negligence, we just didn't prove, we didn't provide enough care, right? A couple things like that. But fraud, we had an intent to deceive. So let's read through. Baker lacked the intent to deceive. Okay, I like that. Proving that we did not try to deceive anyone. It was just a mistake. It was an oversight. That we acted with due diligence. Well, no, because that's not going to. We need to basically prove that. So they need to prove that we did something wrong. Just us proving that we acted with due diligence. That's not going to do anything for us. National was not in privity. Well, we know we talked about that a lot with the Ultramarez decision. All of those not going to really be important there. And then lastly, what about letter D? Well, Baker included a disclaimer provision in the engagement letter with American. That's I know it's mentioned there, but that doesn't really do anything. That doesn't. We can't just say, "Oh, we're disclaimed from any fraud." It's not doesn't work that way. You're still going to be liable for fraud, even if you say in the contract, "Hey, you can't sue us for fraud no matter what." Again, that's just not how the law works. They could still come after you for fraud if you did something fraudulent. So final answer here is going to be letter A. If you can prove that we lacked any intent to deceive, we were not here to deceive, and if you can prove that we just simply were negligent, then that would be your best defense. and you'd have a lot less repercussions if you just prove negligence as compared to fraud. That's going to be it for us today. Make sure you're studying up hard. Take some breaks as needed, but make sure you're staying on track, staying on schedule, getting enough sims and multiple choice questions in, because you got this. Hey there! Are you ready to not only pass your CPA exams, but truly understand and enjoy the material while studying? I know it seems impossible, right? Especially to enjoy the material? We'll do it together. Tap into the power of CPA.examprep.ai, where we've got personalized quizzes, multiple choice questions, memorization guides, flashcards, simulations, all tailored to your learning. Our adaptive study planning puts you on the fastest path to success and lifts you back up if you fall behind. Avoid wasting your precious time and money attempting an exam with a low chance of passing, because who wants that? We want to get you through this process as quick as possible. Our exam readiness prediction lets you walk in with confidence, knowing that you're prepared for success on exam day. Thankfully, there's no payment method needed to get started, so why don't you come join us? Visit cpa.examprep.ai and let's achieve your exam success together.